Hi everyone, welcome to Dragon Image today. If we just get seated and get comfortable. Hi. Okay, so everyone knows why they're here today. We're here to have a look at gimbals and different manufacturers, different brands, different types. So you guys can make a informed decision over what kind of gimbal would work best for you guys. We're also having a look at the DJI new drones, the Phantom 3 and the Inspire 1, which a lot of people want to kind of have a look and kind of see in action because the videos, unfortunately, do not tell you everything that you need to know. First of all, we'll start. Okay, well, great. So we'll start off with the presentation on the gimbals first, and then we'll move on to drones. Okay, so, sorry, Scott. There we go. Okay, so first of all, what is a gimbal stabilizer? Like, why is it different to Steadicams and all that kind of stuff? Gimbal stabilizers are designed to keep the camera in a particular position. And so you've got a sensor there that tells it when it's level, tilting forwards and backwards. You can keep going. One more. Okay, so for instance, here we have the Ronin M, which is the newest little guy. And so you can see, first of all, that the camera is pivoting on a point there. So that will help keep the tilt of the camera perfectly level. Then you've got the yaw, so trying to keep it on the horizontal plane, and then the pan. So all these kind of things come into play to give you a nice kind of, the computer and everything, 32-bit processors come in, and they make micro adjustments to keep the camera perfectly level. Now that you kind of know how that kind of works, let's move on to the different manufacturers. So today we have three manufacturers: DEFY, DJI, and the Lettuce Helix. All three of them have different kind of takes on that, and they all kind of do it a bit differently. First of all, we've got the Helix, which is by Lettuce, and they've manufactured theirs a little bit differently. So unlike traditional gimbals like this one, where you've got the hanging and then you basically hold onto the sides, with the Helix, which is this one here, what they do is they put one of the yaws in the handle. And how they control the system is, instead of balancing the camera from the top of the gimbal down, you balance it around the lens. So the lens is completely centered. And what that does is, and so then you get these little weights to counteract any physical body issues that may create pull to one side or another side. But what this does is, it means that when you're panning, because the camera is dead center on that plane, you're not getting this kind of swinging effect. Like if you, for instance, put your camera on a tripod and had it off to one side of the center point, as you swung, you wouldn't be swinging on a dead center. And that's kind of how they kind of solve the problem of gimbals. The other good thing about the kind of the Helix kind of design is that everything's very, very simple. There we go, get back to center. So there we go. So on this hand here, I can control the panning, and from here, the tilting. And the camera, no matter how I do it, the camera doesn't go upside down, it doesn't go anything like that. I can go from one position to another, and that's how they kind of solve it. And Helix they do two types. They do this one here, which is the larger one, which will take up to, I think it's 7 kilos. So you can put quite a heavy load on there. Or they do this little guy over here. It's got this guy now. Actually, one of the people that actually has this one, Clinton, can come over here and he can tell you about, how he's finding using it.
I basically got thrown under the bus. So this quickly.
It's a nice bus though.
Yeah. I've never been a big fan of gimbals, only because I'm sure some of you guys can relate. We're all quite resistant to change, and I've always been quite comfortable using Steadicam, and I'm sure there are a couple of Steadicam operators here. So when the whole gimbal thing came out, I was quite resistant to it until I saw this guy. So quickly, I just want to let you know that I don't work for the company. So basically, Ken, who runs the company, said, "Oh, you're one of the guys that has got the Junior. Can you basically come down and talk about it real quickly?"
Yeah.
So it's a very different type of technology, and that's probably what led me to basically look at it. Again, I don't claim to be a gimbal operator. I think nowadays, if you want gimbal shots, I would recommend you hire someone, right, that is well versed in the technology. But what's really interesting about this was that for the first time, I actually thought, it's plug and play. It's not that difficult to understand. There are a couple of little idiosyncrasies that you have, but the GUI and how you can set this up is also very, very simple, as opposed to some of the other gimbal systems out there. And not to say that one's better than the other. I basically went for the gimbal thing because I like the way it worked. The other thing also that I really like about this Helix thing is that what I think Angelo was referring to is the nodal point. So, we talk about nodal point in terms of where we pan, things like that. And also the way where you would hold it as well. So most gimbal systems, you almost have to kind of hold it up here to try and get a shot that's sort of eye level, right? The same concept where I wouldn't necessarily want to hold the camera down here. About the gimbal, under slung gimbal, you got to kind of almost lift it up here to kind of look at your shot. And then when you bring it down here, the camera's kind of where your tummy is. So you wouldn't actually take the camera, if I can demonstrate this, actually hold it here and shoot, right?
Yeah.
So that's the wonderful thing. And that's one of the reasons why I essentially went for this thing. Quickly turn it on. So, and like I said, that's one of the reasons how I basically started looking at it, because I really liked the technology itself. And yeah, that's it. I mean, really simple to use. Like I said, I'm no gimbal expert, but as far as setting up is concerned, it was probably one of the easier ones to deal with. So that's my experience. But look, I can explain and talk to you guys a bit later on about the Helix. So yeah.
The other good thing about the Helix, like you can get them as a single axis, dual axis, 3-axis, 4-axis. You can actually mount these onto Steadicams. So for instance, if you're a Steadicam operator already and you want to incorporate some of that kind of access control over the over your kind of camera, then you can get one of these, so the bigger one here, and you can mount this directly to the top of your Steadicam. So you'll get rid of the panning axis stabilization, but you still keep the tilting and the yaw axis. Sorry. The other thing, as you saw, it's very easy to go into like a briefcase mode. I don't touch anything, I don't turn anything. And if you want to, you can actually have up to 5 custom presets. So for the moment, as default, it's set to light camera, heavy camera, light camera with remote, heavy camera with remote. But you can manipulate those any way you want. Okay, so the next manufacturer we'll be looking at now is DJI. So DJI have a very traditional gimbal system. So you've got this little guy here. Okay, so as Clinton was saying before with holding it, so I hold this, my arms are comfortable, and the camera's down here. It's not a particularly comfortable holding position. If I want to hold it at a normal kind of height, so eye height or shoulder height, then I have to hold it up here. The great thing that Ronin have done though is this weighs half the weight of the previous one, but you can still put a C100, C300 onto this one. You can actually put up to like a light red rig could physically go on this. The other thing is you can go into briefcase mode just like that. The only downside with this particular one that I can see is that if you do want to go inverted, the camera is physically upside down. So if you want to go inverted mode where you're actually holding it from the bottom and the camera's up here, then yeah, the camera would be upside down. And there's obviously you can flip it in post and all that kind of stuff. But to me, it's something that the other manufacturers have addressed, and it's something that I think DJI should get to. The other thing is Ronin have a fantastic price to weight ratio. So what you pay for what you can hold is very, very good. So for instance, this one here, being the cheapest one, which is $2,170. Yeah, as I said, you can put up to a red on that, which is fantastic, for anybody getting into the industry. The other thing is that their battery life is exceptionally good. So this one here will give you about, I think it's 240 minutes, and the battery configuration, it's all sealed. The charging is quite easily, and you've got a battery life meter on here. And down here, you'll see you've also got a 12-volt PFAP and a couple of other USB kind of connections. So if you go into Paralinks or something like that, this is a very, very simple system. The other one they do, which is the Ronin standard, which is, again, 4.4 kilos, I think, which is this one here. If you had a particularly heavy rig, I'd invest in one of those. But if you're just the type of person that's shooting A7S, going up slowly, then this is a lot easier, a lot more comfortable. I always tell people when they're buying gimbal systems, buy something that works for 80% of what you do. Don't buy something for those 2% chance that you may need it. If you do need something heavier, rent it, hire someone. You know, it makes it a lot easier, because otherwise you don't know how to use it anyway. The other manufacturer they're looking at today is DEFY. So DEFY do 3 different sizes. They do the G2X, the G5, and the G12. They basically make them for different professionals, different levels. So if you're somebody who wants something that will take a heavy camera, you go for the G12. If you want something really light, you go for the G2X or the G5. As you can see here, though, their weight to price ratio is quite high. So for instance, the G2X is, which is this one here, is $3,400. But this is the thing. This one, if all you're using is an A7S, or in my case a 6D with a 17 to 40, it is the lightest one you can get. Now, if you're shooting for long periods of time, let's see the advantage. So here I've got it. I've got a thumb controller, which is an optional extra, and I can pan and tilt from there, but it's really, really light. It's not particularly heavy. I've got my camera. I want to do low shots, I can. If I want to go from this mode to the standard kind of mode, all I do is turn it off, turn it around, turn it back on again, and I can shoot in that mode. I don't have to worry about the camera being upside down, and it's still very responsive and a lot more comfortable for me to use. Whereas one of the things that they've kind of build them to a kind of a weight, so you can't really put anything really heavy on this. The maximum you could go with it, and that's kind of a drawback in comparison to the Ronin stuff, where the Ronin is designed to take such a broad selection of weights, whereas this is very, very limited. Sorry?
Can that go in the briefcase?
Well, with this one, you have the top handle as well. So if you wanted to use it that way, you can go briefcase mode, but it's not as good as the Helix or the Ronin, in my opinion. Whereas you can just put the top handle on there and then use it, like doing low shots like that, if you're planning on doing that many shots. And that's, yeah, so then you've got the G5, which is very similar to the Ronin. It is half the weight. And the largest thing you can put on this one is an FS700. Is the largest thing I've managed to balance on that. We have balanced an FS7 on there as well, inverted. So again, with the DEFY stuff, all it is a profile tweak to say, I want this yaw to be inverted. And now I can hold it up like that and still have an FS700 at this height. And we actually have the screen up and all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot more practical to use. And yeah, so that's basically it for the gimbals. Any questions regarding gimbals?
You did mention the price. What was the price of the Helix?
Okay, so here we go. So you've got the Helix Junior, which is that little guy. The Helix Junior, obviously, it's 2 kilos, carry up to 3.1 kilos, and is $4,000, give or take. The next one up here, this one comes in the large one that I was playing with, the Helix. Two models. There's actually the largest and everything from that. You can go from the batteries that are actually inbuilt. The next one is the Ronin M. So as I said, it's the cheapest guy and it's extremely affordable. And you know, from playing with it, it's reliable. It's very, you know, obviously I've only had it for a day, but it seems to be extremely responsive. Again, you've got profiles, and DJI have a great application to be able to control a lot of settings. Whereas with DEFY, for instance, at the moment they do have a Bluetooth thing, but I tend to rely strictly on USB straight to my computer. So I can set the profiles, save them, upload them, make any tweaks. So then you have like the Ronin Large, again, $4,000, well priced, and then DEFY is at that kind of upper end of the scale. With DEFY though, and this is one of the things that DEFY kind of separates themselves, they have just released their dactyl cam system. So if you're a kind of person that wants to put something on a wire and run 40 miles an hour next to somebody over 600 feet, you can do that. Like they did this great video at the Sheraton, so they're going across the pool and into the lobby in one long take. You know, so for those type of accessories, it's very handy to have that ability to take your gimbal, mount it straight onto a dactyl cam, and run with it. And so that's it for all the gimbals that we've got here tonight. Obviously, you guys can play with them in a minute. Yes?
Just a question relating to Easy Rig arms.
Oh, okay, yeah. So Easy Rig arms, as long as you get, I think it's the 9-inch version that kind of comes over the top and comes out in front of you. And obviously pick the one that's got the right weight. Easy Rig do a lot of different variations, and they usually, the actual variation on the weight load they can take actually changes the price, doesn't change the price at all. So you have to kind of pick one that's going to suit that weight load, because what happens is if you get something that's heavier than what you need, you end up with that bounce. So you'll step forward and it'll pull up the gimbal, and you don't want that. You want it to be as neutral as possible. There's another manufacturer that we're getting in, which is a copy of the Easy Rig that we're hoping to have in next week, that will be a little bit better suited to kind of the gimbal kind of pricing, because unfortunately Easy Rigs can be a little bit expensive. No, single as well. We've tried the double one, and we find that it's a bit hard to kind of balance, and it's a bit more cumbersome to kind of put together. And then there's this great one that looks like a dinosaur that has the arms that come underneath. That's fantastic. I love that one. But yeah, no, the Easy Rig system I think is definitely one of the easier kind of systems to kind of work with.
Hey, Angela, I'm going to chuck in quickly. For those of you guys that want to understand gimbal technology to some extent and the science of it, this was really interesting for me because, like I said, having not really dwelled into that portion of the market, I think understanding it to some degree will also help you balance your rig. So, for example, for those Steadicam operators, you know that dynamic balance and static balance is a very important thing. So with gimbal technology, you still have to balance your camera right. So I'm just going to quickly go through like 3 basic fundamentals with you as far as a gimbal is concerned, and just give you some idea, because this is based on the research that I did. So it basically comes down to, when you think about it, the science of it, you're depending on sort of brushless motors, right, where we are dependent on technology. When it comes to, let's say, Steadicam operation, it's based on mechanical movement, static balance and dynamic balance, and then you rely on your skill. So the thing with gimbals is that we rely on technology to some extent. So understanding technology is very important. So in this case now, for example, if you want to calibrate a gimbal system, you've got to understand the 3 fundamentals of it, which is sort of a mathematical algorithm when it comes to, let's say, getting your gimbals pretty much spot on. And it's three values, actually. It's what we call the PID values. I'm not sure whether you guys heard of PID values before. So it's basically your proportional, your integral, and then your differential as well. And you have those values. And basically those values will, again, adjust your roll axis, your tilt axis, and your pan axis. So the thing is, if you understand, for example, if you can hook up a gimbal system into your computer, and the thing with the Helix, and I'm not sure whether it happens with some of the other systems, you can actually physically go in there and calibrate those things. So once you understand that, and I suppose if you get the technology to work with you, then it's more likely that you understand how to balance it up as well. So for me, I had to actually look into those elements to then understand how to actually balance the gimbal technology itself. So again, proportional is what we call gain. It's how much energy or power that you send to, let's say, one particular axis. Then your integral value is how quickly does that value actually kick in and work. So again, we have our roll axis, our pan axis, and our tilt axis. You think of how much power you actually have to depend on these little motors to actually do the work for you. So that's where I think I was a bit hesitant to start with, where you would essentially depend on technology to actually get a steady shot for you. And some people will buy gimbals, and it's like you buy a Mini and expect it to run like a Ferrari. Well, the thing is, if you understand the limitations of the technology, then you're more likely to use the technology more efficiently. So where sometimes people expect you to do certain things where you can't simply do it based on gimbal technology, understanding its limitations again will then enable you to basically use the gimbal properly as well. So one of the things I found with the Helix is that there's a GUI what we call a GUI. You can actually plug the Helix into your computer. You can pull all your different axes and then calibrate it that way. I understand it that way. I'm pretty sure. I think the Movi does it. I'm not sure. Yeah, they do the same thing as well. So again, it's you know, it's what we call PID. It's proportional energy. It's your integral, which is how fast the energy kicks in, and your differential in terms of how much dampening you get. So if you adjust, for example, you notice with a lot of gimbal stuff, you can't do whip pans, right? If you want to basically get a remote control, you can essentially do that. But the thing is, you actually could, I remember, I think Drew told me from the
yeah, you gotta.
that there's a technique as well when it comes to gimbal and using gimbals. And I know a friend of mine, Peter Barter, he does a lot of that stuff. He actually said, you know, you've got to move with the camera itself. So for those Steadicam guys out there, it's definitely very different. Nothing again replaces that, but then again, like understanding how the technology works, I think will give you some insight in terms of how you can calibrate something. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And obviously what Clinton was saying is fantastic, and I'm great that he mentioned that all, because it's one of those things, like when we get people coming in all the time, can I hire a Steadicam? And you're like, well, have you used a Steadicam before? And they're like, oh, no, I'm going to the job now. I'll figure it out. It's like Steadicams, lots of skill is required to be able to be a good Steadicam operator. Like you need to learn how to walk. You need to learn how to kind of move your body in a way that kind of flows, and being able to predict where people are going so you can get in the position to do that. Gimbals don't have that same level of learning curve. What you've got to learn is you've got to learn how to balance the camera, but then the gimbal kind of takes over. And I guess it's very similar, like for a lot of people that know how to use a Steadicam, well, letting something else take over can be a little bit frustrating. There are techniques to using a gimbal system. Like I always kind of got taught to move from the body, don't steer. You know, for instance, you go around somebody, you'll physically walk in that position, and you kind of got to preemptively kind of turn as you kind of go, because you have that 30 degrees where nothing really happens. So it's an important thing to know that if you're a Steadicam operator, then you'll get the movement down pretty quickly. But if you're somebody who hasn't used anything before, then it takes practice, just like anything. And that's a good thing that it takes practice, because otherwise everyone would do it. And so the gimbals can be a very good thing. Downside the gimbals, like I'm like with the DEFY, for instance, I'm the person people call when they have a problem. And a lot of the time it's simple. Like when people balance things, they kind of get to a point where they're like, oh, it's just not behaving the way I want it to behave. And sometimes it's trivial, like something's upside down. You know, like the first time I balanced it, it was like this bar here was physically upside down. And I was like, oh, things goes crazy. It's like, and it's like called the guys and they were like, does it say DEFY on top? And I was like, oh no, it doesn't. It's underneath. Turn it around. That was all it was. You know, and we've helped plenty of people with their gimbals, balancing them, teaching them how to walk and stuff like that. So it's very important to kind of understand that it's just like anything, any piece of technology, you can have hiccups, and you can, and you can learn more about it, and you can kind of fix those. Most people can solve most of the issues just by looking at a video. Whereas other times, it takes just that little bit of knowledge to kind of go, that's what the problem was. And so it's but then again, all of them do it slightly differently. They're all exceptional to use. I'm very happy with the Helix. We've only had that for a couple of days, and I found that axis system was fantastic. The Ronin though, the Ronin M, for that price point, it's fantastic. Do we have Hugh on Skype from Lettuce?
You mean him?
So we've got the director?
Hyun's actually the owner of
Yes.
Lettuce. So that's what I mean by getting thrown under the bus. Yeah, I bought a unit when I was in the States, and now I brought it back in, so he said, can you go and demo the unit?
Okay, so he wanted to talk to you guys via Skype, because unfortunately he couldn't make it. He was planning on coming, but visas in the US, coming to Australia, I didn't know that was a problem. But let's see if we can get him through.
What's the weight capacity on the Junior, the big one?
Can you bring up the Scott? Can you bring up the graph of the?
Basically, the Junior, you can actually carry more than its payload, and that's a wonderful thing. So for the Junior, so I think Borchak just asked what was the weight capacity. The Junior is actually spec for some fairly small cameras, but in actuality, you can actually put a red on there for a fairly good-sized camera, and actually works really well. So the way they've designed the technology is you can actually carry more of its payload than what it suggests, as long as you get the balance right. And the cool thing, again, it all comes down to balance, right? So this is where it's really important. And if you look here, for example, because I'm using a fairly heavy lens, I can counter and offset that balance by where you place things as well. So, you know, it really comes down to understanding just basic fundamental knowledge of just balancing. You know, I think the Steadicam guys are probably find it easier to balance a gimbal, whereas, you know, most punters will generally have a harder time. But like I said, it's meant to be made to be quite easily accessible anyway. So, but it holds more than its payload, suggested payload.
What is the difference between this one here and the G5?
The G, as in,
I saw it looks like similar. But between this one and this one.
look, I've used them before. A lot of it just comes down to, you know, the proprietary technology. So again, like I said, if I hold the gimbal here, there's some things where I can go from, let's say, a majestic mode to suitcase mode really quickly. Whereas for this, I have to basically like I'll show you quickly. Is he online yet or not?
Oh, they're picking up now.
As is. Okay.
So that's the suitcase mode there on there.
I'll show you real quick. So the difference, like most gimbal systems, I can basically hold it with one hand and then go straight to suitcase mode very quickly. And if I need to adjust my focus, I can just do that real quick. And I don't actually need a top handle, whereas, for example, one of these gimbals, I might have to, let's say, do that. See what I mean? Whereas with this, I can just basically fly the camera and then go down to suitcase really quickly and then come back up again. So that's, as far as differences are concerned, I've used the other gimbal systems, but not to a great extent. This is probably one of the few gimbal systems that I've even bothered looking at. So I can't really give you a really fair assessment in terms of what that would do.
So that one,
yeah,
you cannot go from that mode.
So yeah, so if I try to do it
in a live mode, in a live shot.
No.
You can, but
Because it does a little tilt down.
Or you just use the hand?
well, one would assume that you would basically just grab the handle.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you just have to basically grab the top handle.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, if we look here, if I'm holding this with my arms tucked in, we know for the fact that if you're going to operate like this or like this for a prolonged period of time, you're going to get tired. And what's really cool about this is, depending on where I shift that monitor to offset the balance of the camera itself, I can tuck my arms in like that, and the camera would still be reasonably placed at eye level. Okay? And this is just that's one of the wonderful things about this particular system. So else, if you look at, let's say, one of these systems, if I hold it in the same position and tuck my arms in, look how low the camera is.
But can't you? Oh, I see.
see, yeah,
But then this is a different. So if you want to have it up here, not to say that it's good or bad, it's just different. You know, that's why I've never sort of. Then if you want to hold again, suitcase, you just basically transfer the weight that way.
yeah. So for instance, with DEFY, what they've done is they've set it so it's naturally inverted. And if you want to go that way, you can, but it's designed to kind of primarily be that way. You know what? For a DSLR, it's actually really handy because I can actually see the back of the screen straight away. I don't have to, like, I can actually look at that without having to kind of put a new one on there and kind of do it that way. But again, I can't go into a low mode when it's like this. It's kind of preset there. With the DEFY stuff, throttle controller is a very handy thing if you're trying to do things that are counterintuitive, because as I tilt down, the camera follows and goes down. As I go up, the camera does the same thing. And so sometimes just being able to actually control it myself.
The Ronin has that as well, though.
Sorry?
The Ronin has
Yeah, the new Ronin does it. The new Ronin has that as well. And that's a throttle kind of system. Whereas with the Helix,
There is a throttle system as well.
yeah, but we've got that. But I love their handle system.
Yeah.
It's so much simpler.
So basically what I can do is just tilt down, and I've got just turn the right handle and it tilts down.
Yeah.
If I turn the right handle up, it tilts up. That's really cool. And then if I go into suitcase mode, if I turn right or left, it does a pan. See, basically does a pan this way.
Yeah.
So it's different technology. It's, you know, it's, like I said, forces for forces. Yeah. So
Yeah, it depends. Because obviously, look, it depends how you're planning on shooting most of your work. If you want something that's going to be very versatile, go from big cameras to small cameras and go suitcase mode, then the Ronin's the way to go. If you want something where you're shooting a lot of things where you're just going to be following people all day, every day, then the DEFY is going to give you a more comfortable position for those follow track shots. And you've got the dactyl cam options in the future. Whereas if you want something that's like the Helix, to me is by far very, very flexible on the go, and having that joystick controller or that wrist control is, you know, so much easier than trying to use my thumb. Like I feel like a crane operator when I'm trying to use a thumb controller while moving around. Whereas with the Helix, I can actually just tilt my wrist and kind of do it that way. Do you want to bring up the, Scott, do you want to bring up the graph of the different weights and everything while you're...
We've sort of got him.
Oh, you've got him? Does anybody have any questions?
So, did you?
Hello?
Did you? So, why did?
Are you going to tell him he's on, or if he scratches himself, I'm going to be a bit embarrassed. Sorry? What? Just tell him that I'm talking. Hello?
It really comes down.
I'm on.
You're on.
Okay. So should I talk now or Clinton is talking?
Yes, you should talk.
I'm done.
Okay. My name is Ian. I supposed to be there already today, but I packed up about 24 hours or more than 24 hours ago, and when I went to the airport, they turned me back. They said I need a visa. I don't know. I never knew about that. So sorry about that. I want to. Dominic asked me to come, and I want to come to basically show respect to the group of filmmakers in Australia. You know, I heard a lot about you through Clinton, and Dominic said very, very good group. So I wanted to come and greet you face by face, but sorry I couldn't do that. I tried my best, but couldn't happen. So I
Hello.
have in front of me is the junior that Clinton probably has the same thing that that he showed over there. I don't know if you see the screen that I joined another I don't know if you see another screen that I share on the screen.
No, we don't see the other screen.
Okay, so basically this is a gimbal that built from ground up. We were instead of like how to put a handle on the gimbal under the helicopter, the handheld, we make it from the tripod and say how to stabilize it when you hold it in your hand, and that's why we take totally different approach from any gimbal that you see in the market right now. We came out with the regional version in 2012, and we showed it in NAB 2012. So it's a 4 year before the Mobi came out. So we're the so you see it's very differently. The first, you notice that you don't need a stand for the the gimbal. You just put it down. You don't need a stand. And then there's, you know, when you factor in that you need a assistant to carry a stand around for you, that's become costly quickly. You know, you never expect to pick up the gimbal running around and then end up in the exact same spot that you started with. If you don't end up with the same spot that you started with, you need a stand right there, or you have to come back to, like if you run a block of the street and then you have to come back to the same place to put it on stand, or you have somebody carries the stand for you, that become costly on set. And the helix, you just pick up and then you put it down wherever you have a flat surface. And optical center. So this is the one gimbal that does this. Underneath each camera, you have the 1/4" 20 or 3/8. That screw is always at the optical center of the camera. Why? Because when you put it on the tripod, the camera on the tripod, and you pan, you have a sweeping movement, very sweep, just like very smooth, the sweeping moment. But if you imagine you take that camera and move it like 3 inches to the right or to the left, then you will have a parallax. You know, you can turn still, but you have parallax effect. If you look into the image of a Steadicam pan and a gimbal pan, you will know which one is Steadicam and which one is a gimbal, because the professional eyes, they will know that there's a parallax in the gimbal, because the gimbal, they offset to the right or to the left to balance the rig. So that's why you have that. You know, maybe if you just come to filmmaking, you won't notice that, but after a professional eye will detect that easily. So another thing is stabilized monitor. All gimbal out there, you have the handlebar on the top, and then you have a monitor on the handlebar. The handlebar is a part that is not stabilized. When you are not stabilized and the image inside the monitor is stabilized, your brain is very confused. It'll say, oh, is my image stabilized? And it doesn't look like it, but actually it does. Your image is very stabilized, but your eye doesn't see it as stabilized. And they cannot put the monitor on top of the camera, because the bar on the back and the bar on the top just block the view. They cannot see it. But we have an open top view, so we can put on the camera. Whatever you see on the screen is exactly what is recorded. And to us, it's very important. And another thing is, we use like, for example, the Movi or the Ronin. Then when you tilt, you have to torque the whole system up like this, and to tilt. For us, you know, just it's power assist. There's no it's even power driven. You even can tilt it with like 1 finger, 2 fingers like this, and it tilts, because the motor drives itself. Just a little force, it will make the thing tilt, and then you only need one hand, just like the right hand, to do it. So it's very intuitive. You know, at NAB, that we have a bunch of people who use the gimbals before, and then the first time they pick up the Junior or the Helix, they were amazed how intuitive the tilting is. And one more thing, you can go from very high to very low in just one sweeping moment, and there's no hiccup in between. You can do a crane shot, and then you go under, and then going from foot going down up, and then go crane shot like that in one movement. And that's very unique to the Helix. And power distribution, right now, you see, I have a monitor, the camera, and the gimbal, all power from the juice box on the back. It eliminates checking the power of the camera, of the monitor, see if it's all intact. So I think that is also important. And also, if you add a battery here, a battery there, it quickly add weight to the system. And one more correction is the Helix Junior can handle 12 pounds at least, 12 pounds. I mean, not at least, but it's up to 12 pounds. We can do more if you can balance it. It's not 7 pounds. Some misinformation there that we our web developers did. So it's actually 12 pounds, not 7 pounds. 12 pounds is about 6 kilos, 5.5 kilos. And we use lithium ion instead of lipos, lithium polymers. That's very important. Nobody leaves their lithium polymers or lipos unattended when they charge. You do leave your Anton Bauer or V-Lock or Red Brick unattended, no problem, but not with the drones and other gimbals batteries, because they do burn out of the house. We took that back. They took that back, and then we ran away from it. The reason they did this because they need very high amperage for the helicopters, but they don't need that much high amperage for the gimbal. So why use that? We don't. We use lithium ion, and it's a lot safer. You don't need a charging bag to put inside when you charge lithium ion, but you do need a charging bag to put inside to charge lithium polymers. So and then you can leave it charged unattended, and that's one of the very good features that we do. And one of the most important is, I think I heard Clinton talked about eye level. Yeah, eye level shooting is very important. You know, how many of you pick up a camera and shoot like this? I don't you know, I don't see any professional unless they shoot a child and in very special shot, and they do this. But most of the time they do this. You agree? And then I don't know if Clinton has a picture. I sent Clinton the presentation for backup. But if you go to DJI front page for the Ronin, there's a guy who held the gimbal like this, and the camera is right here. And I'm not talking about somebody that doesn't know how to hold the DJI gimbal. It's in DJI front page. And also, if you look at Half Fragile from Moby, he hold the Moby. It not because he want to do that, but that's how the form factor of the Moby or other Moby Light gimbal is gonna come out too. I don't want to bash them. I just only want to talk about the Helix, but I want to bring to attention that other gimbal, when you hold it at the hand and in light in eye level, the gimbal is down here, and it just that you never hold a camera and shoot like this. You don't hold. You should not hold the camera and shoot like that. You know, you hold the camera where the lens is, and then you shoot. And when you do like this, you can lock in the arm, and you can shoot like for a long time. For other system, you have to hold it like this high to get eye level, and then when you hold it this high, the arm gets tired really quickly, like a minute, a maximum, a minute, 2 minutes maximum. And then, but when you lock like this, and if you play with Clinton Junior, you can shoot like half an hour easy with this. So that's Yes.
We're going to have to keep going, but thanks so much for the presentation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you couldn't make it here.
Yeah.
But
I wish to.
they really want to play with it. I've got them both set up. They really want to play with it. So we'll move on now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, guys. And okay, so now we're going to quickly show you. Okay, so what DJI has also brought for us today is the new Inspire 1 and the new Phantom 3. So these two are the new guys on the block. The Inspire 1's been out for a little while, but the Phantom 3 is coming next week. So it's a good chance for us to kind of have a look at them, play with them, and kind of go from there. I've got 2 videos from DJI introducing both of these. So I'll just put those on now so we can, have something a bit more.
Form an image in your mind. An erupting volcano spitting geysers of ultra-hot magma into the air. A city awoken from its slumber, so ancient, it's as if you've traveled through time itself. Now think, who possibly could have acquired such footage? NASA? A multi-million-dollar Hollywood production? A veteran nature photographer? What if the creator of this footage was you? It's what our main goal was, and what we strived for when we created the Phantom 3.
Phantom 3 is a remote-controlled quadcopter with a camera mounted to it. In presenting such an innovative device to the world, our key goal was to remove any and all challenges that someone might face when flying for the very first time.
The innovations that we have applied to the Phantom 3 make this all possible. So now every vacation, camping trip, late night party, and even every selfie will be taken to heights never thought possible.
Building the Phantom is no small task. It takes a perfect union of man and machine to bring all the pieces together to deliver them to you.
When viewing the Phantom, rather than focus on the fundamental, we chose to start with the elemental.
It starts with the systems inside that combine to form a tiny living computer.
It's these systems which give the quadcopter the ability to perform such fluid movements of aerial accuracy with the simple press of a thumbstick. 4 engines which independently and dynamically control each of the Phantom's 4 props are meticulously crafted to the most granular detail to ensure perfection at every level.
Every turn, pivot, and momentum compensation requires the propellers to change speed on the fly, and our system does this automatically, working for you so you can focus on what really matters, the visuals.
One of the main priorities for us with the Phantom 3 was to streamline the experience of piloting the quadcopter, to remove any hurdles from the process so that all that's left is pure fun. The flight controls we've talked about are integral for this to happen, but they have some help as well. The Phantom 3 boasts an upgraded GPS system on board, which provides pinpoint location accuracy. What that means is that your Phantom always knows exactly where it is, even if you don't. Any obstacle that might hamper controllability can rely on the intelligence of the Phantom 3 to never become disoriented or lost. It makes flying completely effortless, and it will always come home.
Return to home increases confidence while flying by always having a safeguard option at your fingertips, precisely when you might need it. Even if the Phantom flies out of the range of the controller, return to home initiates automatically to bring the quadcopter back to you safely and easily. The flight control itself has always been designed from the ground up to be intuitive and accessible. From the ergonomic grips, you can record and play back video, toggle flight controls, control the camera gimbal, and adjust exposure, all with a flip of your fingertip.
One of the most exciting new features of the Phantom 3 is the new integrated vision positioning system. Using a trio of small sensors, the Phantom 3 accurately tracks the ground underneath it. The Phantom can both hover and fly low to the ground, and even fly indoors, which expands its uses and capabilities exponentially and gives artists much more creative space than ever thought possible.
The visuals created by the professional version of the Phantom 3 are realized via an ultra-high definition 4K camera, which records crystal clear, beautiful video, as well as 12 megapixel still photos. We've built our camera from the ground up using the highest quality aluminum pulled from the crust of the Earth itself because of its inherent lightweight quality, its propensity for strength, and its resistance to corrosion. The ability to capture high-quality images doesn't stop at the camera. The 3-axis gimbal works alongside the camera to both keep it securely fastened to the Phantom, as well as provide stabilization no matter what the flight conditions are or how actively the Phantom is moving. This guarantees stunning footage with stable, smooth movement.
Flying the Phantom 3 is a liberating experience because creators of any skill level can simply power the unit on, take it up into the air, and get the same high-quality, breathtaking shots normally seen only in blockbuster movies. Now, that power is in everybody's hands.
We're also introducing a new app designed to accommodate anyone. The app has been automated for a more casual experience, and the Phantom 3 can now take off and land with a simple press of an on-screen button. All of this complements the app's new live HD view powered by Lightbridge. The Phantom's camera feed is transmitted to your tablet at great distances in an eye-popping 720p real-time stream.
Director is a new video editor that makes the process of assembling a stunning video montage a breeze by auto-editing all of your favorite scenes from a recent flight. It even adds the perfect music. Along with the editor, the app includes flight logs and even an offline flight simulator, because practice makes perfect.
The Phantom 3 is easily the most ideal size and shape you'll find in a quadcopter. With its specifically designed, uniquely compact, and lightweight form factor, the Phantom 3 is built to go with you, to be there whenever and wherever you need it.
Outside of this professional version of the Phantom 3, we are also releasing an advanced version, which comes loaded with all of the premium features we've already talked about, but comes equipped with a 1080p camera that records up to 60 frames per second, also capable of shooting 12 megapixel stills.
The Phantom 3 makes both flying and recording from the air completely effortless. In no small order, the Phantom will revolutionize not just our creative space, but every creative space. There are limitless applications for the Phantom 3, and its sphere of influence is ever-growing. We're entering a brave new world with aerial imaging, and the Phantom 3 is here to lead that expedition, to rediscover the world, and to give everyone the ability to make the most compelling images in their minds an inspired reality.
The Inspire 1 video, Dragon Images not condone the use of drones without a license, yada, yada, yada. You know, there's obviously lots of legislation and stuff up in the air at the moment in regards to drone operations. So if you kind of looking at that and going, oh, wow, it's, you know, it's a $1,500 drone that has a camera built in, it's going to be fantastic. I don't think a priest would let you shoot in a church. Like, you know, I just saw that part where it's like,
AXA wouldn't let you shoot with it, especially unless you got a license.
yeah. Yeah, so obviously keep that in mind. If you are looking at getting a drone, look into the legislation and all that kind of stuff first. Get training, get licensed, and you know, do it the right way or pay the fines, because they are kind of finding people on YouTube and sending them fines online now. So it's one thing just to keep an eye out for. Okay, the next video we have is on the Inspire 1. It's just easier for me to get these videos and think about it.
Hello, I'm Philip Bloom. There are times when technology pushes boundaries. What's really special are the moments when boundaries are completely ignored and the new device redefines possibility. The DJI Inspire 1 is the world's most advanced all-in-one aerial filmmaking system. It all starts with the ready-to-fly innovative design. The sleek aerodynamic body is remarkably lightweight, especially when you consider the technology that's packed into it. A smart flight controller, powerful motors, and large propellers make the Inspire 1 responsive and stable. During flight, the strong carbon fiber arms raise up, transforming the Inspire 1's shape and giving you a 360-degree view from the built-in stabilized camera. The Inspire's camera shoots in crystal clear 4K video at 24, 25, and 30 frames per second, and in 1080p at 24, 25, 30, 50, and 60 frames per second. It captures beautiful 12 megapixel stills, and a 94-degree wide-angle lens eliminates distortion and fills your imagery with crisp, vivid colors. The camera is detachable, allowing flexibility for future upgrades. The Inspire 1 also includes DJI's 3-axis gimbal technology for world-class camera stabilization. The Inspire 1's camera rotates a full 360 degrees and tilts up and down 125 degrees, vastly expanding your options for creating content that truly reflects anything your mind's eye can see. A brand new optical flow positioning system utilizes downward-facing sensors to stabilize the Inspire 1 when it's close to the ground. This means that the Inspire 1 can fly indoors with perfect positioning and is able to hover stably at low altitudes even without a GPS signal. On the remote, sensitive control sticks make flying simple, easy, and responsive. Ergonomic dials control gimbal movement and camera settings, while dedicated buttons allow instant photo capture and video recording. Integrated DJI Lightbridge technology allows you to see what you're shooting in HD at a range of over 1 kilometer, so you can clearly see the details of your aerial perspectives as you capture them. Enabled by Lightbridge, the mobile app gives you a high-definition view of what the camera sees. It allows you to change camera settings and includes a full manual mode. The Inspire 1 encourages collaborative creativity. By using a second controller at the same time, a dedicated operator can control where the camera's pointing so the pilot can maneuver the Inspire, allowing for precise camera moves. Previously only available on larger platforms, DJI Inspire 1 seamlessly integrates groundbreaking aerial imaging technology into the expression of your wildest ideas. And you'll redefine, again, what it means to explore new aerial perspectives.
Okay, so that's the end of the presentation part. Now let's go to the practical part where you guys can actually see the Inspire 1 flying and actually pick up the gimbals and ask questions and play with things and actually see how it goes. So if we've got our guest here from DJI to actually get the Inspire. Kieran, where's the microphone? Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Yeah, I need one for, sorry. One, because I need a video, because there's a video output here.
Sorry?
There's a video, output here.
That's the HDMI out there.
Yeah, the HDMI here.
Yeah. Do we have the, Diago, can I borrow that transmitter?
Yeah, because I can play the video. I'm just.
So what we'll do is we'll take the video directly out of the controller. Kieran, can you get a mini SDI to mini HDMI to HDMI?
Mini to mini?
Mini to standard.
Just need a camera.
Grab that. Mark's looking at me like I'm doing something wrong. This is not for professional use. There was one just here.
Mini to standard.
Why didn't you tell us earlier?
Well, I didn't know.
No,
I know, yeah. Okay, so I'm walking back now. Just wanted you guys to know that.
But it's not very stable. I don't know why.
That's okay. You got that feed?
It looks really high.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly it says really low. You got a video?
Yep. So if you guys look over there, the video feed's on the wall. You want to turn it around?
It's not very stable. I don't know why.
That's okay. You want to come down? So normally the sensors would pick up the ground and then it would try to hover in the one position, but at the moment it's having a little piece of it. But you can see the camera feed there on the wall. There we go. Yeah, you can probably just put it down. You all right? Should be all right. Okay, so the feet. Huh? Yeah, GPS, yeah.
There's no GPS actually.
No, not in
no
this
GPS.
one. Not at the moment.
No, because it's indoor.
No, indoors.
Because indoor.
No indoor, no GPS indoors, yeah. Thanks, guys. Okay, so take that. Tiago, you want to take this back? There you go.
They're selling it here, aren't they? Or not yet? Right.
Oh, okay. I could try and maybe ask. I think they're going to carry it in. Are you guys going to bring in the healing stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not allowed
Of course we are. Like, just promoted the crap out of it. Yeah, we'll get the Helix stuff in, definitely. At this point, they're not shipping out to the Junior for another 10 days. But after that,
an actual. So